Hello, Shredders. Nick here, known as the Exalted One on Magic the Gathering Online, back with some more modern action. This time we'll be playing Blue-Red Delver. So, not too much to go over in this deck. I think this is a deck that people have been pretty comfortable with for quite a while. Essentially, just play these 16 creatures, which all play very well with a lot of instants and sorceries, and then a lot of instants and sorceries. So we have, card draw, removal, counter spells. Kind of which you play and how many is sort of up to you. As far as counter spells, I think Spell Snare is pretty well positioned, and similar with Logic Knot. I went with 4 bolts, which is probably pretty typical, and then I've kind of arrived at this removal suite after some testing. I tried some different cards, Roast, Electrolyze. Uh, there were a lot of cards that I found Roast didn't hit, kind of Celestial Colonnades, uh, Restoration Angels, Spell Quellers, different things like that. So I wanted to have a couple cards that could deal with those sorts of things. So Dismember and Vapor Snag worked in. And then, well, Electrolyze was good. I just think that the cheaper effect in Forked Bolt is a little bit better as far as what this deck wants to accomplish. Uh, Kind of the interesting part that we're getting to here is some of the new cantrips. So Serum Visions, everybody knows of and is aware of, but here we have Opt, a new addition to the format with Ixalan. So single blue mana to scry one, draw a card, which is a reprint, but this is the first printing that makes it legal in Modern. So kind of exciting to see what decks are going to play this and what decks aren't. I think it plays pretty well with Snapcaster Mage and a bunch of instants. Um, but keep an eye out, see maybe if it ends up in Storm or Grixis Death Shadow or any number of places where you might want additional cantrips compared to Serum Visions or really value the instant speed. The other one we have is Chart a Course. So 1 in the blue, sorcery, draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you attacked with a creature this turn. So if you attacked with a creature, it's straight up draw 2 for 2 mana, and if you didn't, it's draw 2, discard 1, which is still not a bad effect in a deck that probably wants to max out on 4 lands and has some kind of niche counter spells and removal spells, as we just went over. But it is not too difficult to attack with a creature in this deck. That's kind of what you want to be doing. So I've been pretty impressed with the card thus far. It's definitely a step down from Treasure Cruise. Treasure Cruise, you just kind of called the travel agency, hopped on the ship, and it did everything for you. Chart a Course, you're the one driving the boat, so you have to do a little bit more work. That's kind of the comparison I would make there. Mana base, nothing too interesting. If you last played the deck during the Treasure Cruise era, you don't have to play as many fetch lands since you don't have to fuel quite as many delve cards. And then we have access to Spirebluff Canal now. Turning attention to the sideboard, a couple Dispel and Negate, Ceremonious Rejection, so these cards come in a variety of matchups against control decks, combo decks that have spells. Often bring in some of these against Collected Company decks since that's a very key card. A lot of different applications. Ceremonious Rejection, far more narrow card, primarily for Eldrazi decks, Tron decks, Affinity, those sorts of things. By Force, also mostly Affinity and like Eldrazi Tron decks. It's really important to have an answer to Chalice on one. I'll do a quick CMC sort. 26 cards in the deck cost 1 mana, so it's important to have an answer to Chalice of the Void on one. And this does that. Dragon's Claw for burn. Card which is again narrow but very powerful. It may be that we don't necessarily need this. This was a critical card when the deck was playing Gitaxian Probe and Treasure Cruise. but you took a lot of damage off your fetch lands and your probes. And it may be that we can actually get away without it now. I'm not entirely sure. Some additional removal spells and roast for matchups that have dumb 5 toughness creatures on the ground like Eldrazi Tron, Tarmogoyf, Tassigurs, and then Izzet Staticaster for things like elves, decks that play mana creatures, lingering souls, all those different things. Lastly, I'm playing Ravenous Trap as my graveyard hate of choice. Blue and red don't have tremendous options. You kind of have to play things like Relic Progendus, which is nice in that it has sort of a nibbling effect against the decks that aren't broken graveyard decks, but sort of rely on their graveyard as a resource. Decks that play, Snapcaster, Tarmogoyf, Golagon's Command. But it's significantly worse against a deck like Dredge, whereas Ravenous Trap is kind of basically useless against the decks that sort of use their graveyard for incremental advantage, and is very good against the decks that try to do broken things with their graveyard, like Dredge. It's also an instant, so it plays well with Delvers and Young Pyromancers, whereas Relic Progendus didn't do that, as well as, not to say it plays well with Snapcaster Mage, because the way that trap costs work doesn't jive with Flashback, but it doesn't exile your own graveyard like a Relic would, so there's that. So this is the deck. I guess the only kind of thing that I want to still fix and improve with the deck is to get a couple Blood Moons into the sideboards, probably 2 Blood Moons. And I'm not entirely sure how to make room for them just yet, but that's one thing that I definitely want to have access to that I haven't figured out where to get the room yet. It might be that this doesn't solve the Dredge matchup, or we're fast enough to beat them, or maybe we don't need the Dragon's Claws so we can fit them in there, but again, I haven't figured that out just yet. So this is the deck. I'll be playing a few rounds for you all, so stay tuned, Stratters. Hello, Stratters. Nick here for a match of Modern with Blue-Red Delver. And we're on the draw with this hand, but I think it's pretty good. Okay, so opponent plays Blood Crypt tapped. Not entirely sure what to make of that. Typically, Blood Crypt decks would be playing some sort of 1-mana spell, like a Inquisition or Thoughtseize or a Faithless Looting. A lot of different options. Into Blackleaf Cliffs. What do we have here? Okay, Dark Confidant. So maybe a Jund deck or a Jund deck, or like the black-red deck has been kind of going around lately. So it might just be one of those, but without a discard spell. Alright, get in with our Swiftspear. And the reason I played Polluted Delta Fetched Island instead of getting our Spirebluff Canal into play tapped, we're only going to get punished for this if we draw the third Spirebluff Canal. And if the opponent were on the black-red Blood Moon deck, our hand could potentially get punished by not fetching an island there. We have a couple blue cards we want to cast, no cantrips early, help in finding an island. So I'm going to go ahead and opt just for the prowess trigger. Prompt push or terminate. Terminate, sure. Fine by me. Another Swiftspear is not too exciting, but I think that's fine, given that we're against a deck that seems to have plenty of removal, so we just don't want to ever run out of threats. We want to always have a threat on the table. And our draws are pretty good, so next turn we can play Swiftspear and attack, leave up Logic Knot. So now we want to find some removal. I'll reveal Opt. I guess I'll actually draw it as well. So I guess ideally with this Opt, I'd find some sort of 1-mana removal spell. Bolt or Forked Bolt also plays. And since I know that I'm going to be Forked Bolting the Confidant, I won't be leaving up Logic Knot, so I might as well cast this other op for the Prowess trigger. Another Chart Course, excellent. 1 and 1. So presumably the opponent really needs a third land here, and if they don't get it, going to be probably in rough shape. So Chart of Course is a little bit awkward with Swiftspear in that Swiftspear really wants you to cast your spells before damage, and Chart of Course wants you to cast them second main phase. But they do go well together in that Swiftspear has haste, so it can look like you don't have a creature to attack with, play a Swiftspear attack, and then you get to draw 2 off your Chart of Course without, it being telegraphed to the opponent. It's like a Liliana is, and we'll just go ahead and I'm gonna delve extra. I don't know if this deck, if it is black-red, plays Simian Spirit Guide or not, but I might as well play around the potential. Another important thing if you cast Logic Knots against Jund, and again, this looks like just blue-red, but if it were Jund, sometimes you want to delve a little extra just to reduce the size of Tarmogoyfs. So bolt you, and Snapcaster Mage. Bolt you. So the opponent stumbled there, and we were able to really punish them. Looks like they didn't have a ton of removal in their hand, and they were really dependent on the Dark Confidants living to hopefully help them draw that third land. Okay, so this looks just to be the black-red deck from everything that we saw. Again, could be Jund, just with a somewhat awkward draw. Not sure if there's anything in particular that I want. Dragon's Claws isn't really great. Neither's Ravenous Trap and Byforce. These are kind of narrow sideboard cards. And then maybe Roast. Roast might be a good option. Doesn't look like they have anything to Staticaster down besides the Dark Confidant, but yeah, and the rest of this doesn't look great either. I'm going to take out maybe Serum Visions. I think on the draw, it's important to keep, if you have Spell Snare in your hand, to keep a mana up for Spell Snare. since trading your kind of first turn for their second turn is really valuable. And so I think that Serum Visions is probably the better cantrip, and so if you just kind of wanted to shave on, you know, your, how should I describe it? Cards that don't do anything, because I mean, Opt and Serum Visions, they just draw cards, like they sift through your deck, but they aren't actual like game pieces on themselves, like a creature is, or like a removal spell has the ability to take away the opponent's creatures. They're just cards that don't affect the board. I think I should probably play a Delver. That, and they don't know that we have a Forked Bolt, so maybe they play something that gets hit by a Forked Bolt. Although, I mean, Forked Bolt kills Confidant, Ooze, it's Tarmogoyf. It also kills Grimflayer if they're playing that version. Tarmogoyf we have a Dismember for. Okay, so just terminating the Delver right away. And deciding whether I want to opt and try to find a land or not. I think the answer is no, that I would rather leave up Spell Snare. Well, the opponent didn't take Spell Snare with their Inquisition. They took a creature in Young Pyromancer even though they had a Terminate. So it's probably just going to be a Liliana of the Veil. It could be like Ooze, leave up a green. No, it is in fact a Liliana. Let's opt before discarding. Want that. Now that I think about it, maybe it was worth the risk of, because if we opt into a blue source and then play it, then we still have Spell Snare up. So maybe that was something I should have considered. Alright, Young Pyromancer. Again, I think I'll just pass, and maybe try to flash in Snapcaster Mage. Ideally, I would be able to play like Young Pyromancer into Forked Bolt and get a token so that the Liliana Edict doesn't get me. Well, or, let's see. So I could flash in Snapcaster Mage and just hope to draw an untapped land, I guess, yeah, of any type. Then I could play Pyromancer and Dismember the Tarmogoyf. Although, kind of want to get value out of the Snapcaster, so I guess if I Spell Snare the Tarmogoyf, and then even if next turn I draw an untapped land, I can still go Pyromancer. I think I'll get rid of the Dismember. Snapcaster if I really want to buy something back. So hopefully we get a land, red land. Okay, we did. Nice. It's lucky. Just make sure I don't have, yeah, that seems to be the best option. So Forked Bolt. And yes, I'd like to redirect to Liliana. See what the opponent's been discarding this whole. Okay, so they discarded a Damnation and a land. Usually, I'm playing a little bit loose here. You should be keeping track of what your opponent or no, they discarded Damnation and Liliana of the Veil. You should keep track of what your opponent's discarding with Liliana of the Veil. Okay, and they returned Tarmogoyf. So then they'll discard. I have to get rid of Snapcaster, and so they have a Tarmogoyf. Hopefully draw a Bolt. Young Pyromancer. Alright. Attack Liliana. Play out the Pyro. But as I was saying, you should keep track of the cards that your opponent discards off of their Liliana, just to kind of get a sense of what might be in their hand. Elemental. Spell? Bolt. Yeah, we just need to, well... No, this is... I should save it, because the Liliana's at 1, so if they want to get the card out on my hand, they'll have to play out all the cards out of their hand. And if they can't do that, then... Yeah, so I just get a card out of my opponent's hand for free. And presumably it's not a very good one. But, yes, redirect. Just like a discard spell, maybe? Anger of the Gods, so... Uncastable spell. I think we'll race. Although they might just play another creature, but I could, okay, Swiftspear, not bad. So we're going to have to draw some spells to win this race, but I think we're pretty favored to do that. They might leave home, or keep their Tarmogoyf at home. They're thinking, okay, opt, yep, cast that. Another Swiftspear. Like a Vapor Snag, be a good one. I guess if this Swiftspear gets big enough, even a Lightning Bolt would be good. No, thank you. And I don't think I can really feign a Lightning Bolt, so just build up a bunch of tokens. A Delver. Delver might be good, but I think I'll still take a random. Okay, Snapcaster Mage. No good attacks. Opponent's laughing at my opt into opt into opt. Dark Confidant. Alright. So I could Snapcaster Dismember the Tarmogoyf after blocks. I'll let them get one draw with the Dark Confidant, I think. If I put enough pressure on, the Dark Confidant isn't really going to matter. So I think that's what I'm going to try to do. Okay, and it looks like they're happy to trade it off anyhow. This might, well, I was going to say this might preempt a removal spell on the Swiftspear to save the Tarmogoyf, but I kind of can't imagine that they would have a removal spell and not have cast it immediately on the Pyromancer. Alright, so things are looking pretty good. They have a lot on board to answer. I have a Snapcaster in hand, which is a great draw. Their Damnation, typically this deck only plays one in the sideboard, is already gone, and opponent agrees. So that was a really nice matchup from our perspective against Jund. Opponent stumbled a little bit on mana the first game, but this deck, I mean, that's part of the reason to play a more aggressive deck, is that you get to punish your opponent for stumbling. And then this second game, I think we had to navigate that, I think, pretty well, just because of how they got their Liliana fail in play, and we were kind of stuck on one land and had to dig out and make tokens with our Pyromancer and use our Snapcaster as well. So I thought that was a pretty good showing for the deck. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned, Stratters. Hello, Stratters, back with match 2. Again, looks like a pretty good hand. Have a threat, removal spell, a couple lands, opt to find whatever we need. Okay, so Water Grave tapped, and play Swiftspear off of this mountain. There's some consideration to wanting to get Spirebluff Canal into play as soon as possible, in case we got unlucky and rattle off the other ones, or maybe to get a fetch land into play to get kind of better mana. But the opponent might think we're burn or something if I lead off of like this, which might change their plays. Is this a Collective Brutality? It is. Okay. Well, see, so we didn't do, so we kind of got the bluff, but not the full bluff. If the opponent really thought we were burned, they might, do the drain and gain mode, which I don't think is particularly good against this deck. I mean, yes, we're an aggressive deck, but we have more late game tools than a burn deck does. I think we're fine on those, so opt. In case we draw another Swiftspear. That's, I guess, a fine card. If we draw another threat, we'll be happy that we have it. And if not, we can always fire it off just to, get rid of our fourth land. Another Collective Brutality. Okay. It's probably going to hit this other chart, of course. It's getting kind of annoying since it's one of our better cards for card advantage. Okay. So, some sort of Esper deck. It's a little odd, Geist and Collective Brutality to be in the same deck. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Collective Brutality as a sideboard card, but as far as a main deck card, I think it's just kind of, none of the modes are great. They're all, well, we're probably going to lose now. Geist is a really hard card for our deck to beat. Snapcaster's not bad. So maybe, thinking if I just want to run the Snapcaster out there to try to trade with the Geist, or if I should, give him a Bolt Snap Bolt. I think it's probably worthwhile to do Bolt Snap Bolt. What are they tapping main phase 1 for? This Steal the Godhead? Oh wow, it is a Steal the Godhead. Well, okay, maybe this is an Esper Zur deck. It's the only deck that I think typically plays this full combo. And now our Snapcaster isn't even really very good. I guess I'll Vapor Snag the Angel. Doesn't look like this deck's going to present us with a whole lot else. And I don't think it's even worth lightning bolting them anymore. Okay, Dismember. Yeah, it's just going to be too hard to race. It's like what I was saying with Collective Brutality. If they use the Drain and Gain mode, like 2 life is like that's not a lot of life. It's our deck isn't full of lava spikes, so gaining 2 against a deck full of lava spike means you're trading for about 2/3 of a card. A big repeatable life gain effect like this Steel of the Godhead, especially on a creature that's as hard to interact with as Geist of St. Traff. I think that's a different story. So, oh, and what am I thinking? We can't even eventually get to a double block because of Steel of the Godhead makes it unblockable. Okay, and they have Worship? Wow. Alright. So I'm probably going to draw and concede. Logic Knot, that's looks like going to be an important card in this matchup. Alright. So I wonder if Negate is maybe a card we'd like instead of Spell Snare. And then we didn't really see any other... Dismember might not be very good. Any other real targets for removal. I mean, they could have Lingering Souls in their deck. So I think these I take out. I mean, I don't know that they have Lingering Souls. It's just a feeling that I have. We did see targets for Spell Snare and Collective Brutality. So maybe it is still a fine card. Yeah, but some number of bolts or forked bolts might be the right thing to take out, or also Vapor Snags. But I don't know that. All I know is that I died to a very large, very angry, life-linking, unblockable Geist of St. Traff that game. Okay. So this is looking not bad. So I'll fetch out Steam Vents. Just cast this Serum Visions main phase. Swiftspear and Delver. So if I were looking at an instant or sorcery and then the Delver, I would probably take the Delver. Seeing 2 threats here, I don't think I need both, and I think I'm actually going to take the Swiftspear. I think that works a little bit better with how our hand looks here. That maybe next turn I tap out for a Pyromancer, and then if I draw a land, that gives me the option. Now that they took a Pyromancer, it's a little bit less good. So now I think I'll just go Swiftspear and opt. Try to find another land. Another Pyromancer. That's tempting. If I knew that the card beneath this were a land, I would take keep a Pyromancer, but I really want another land so that I'm able to play Pyromancer plus Opt or Swiftspear plus Charter Cruise, depending on how the opponent plays out their turn. So this looks like a Collective Brutality. Maybe I should just not play creature into that. Okay, so they're going to take my Charter Course again. Oh no, they took Opt. Hopefully I draw a land. So I'm going to sit back on this Logic Knot. So hopefully this is them tapping out for a Geist of St. Traft, and I get to Logic Knot it. And that's exactly what's happening. Cool. Now that I do not have a nice play to sit back on, I'm going to just double threat. If they have removal spell, one of my threats will hopefully live and I'll be able to fire off this Charter Course. Let's maybe worship Zur. A bit odd to have worship in a Zur deck, because Zur doesn't search out enchantments that that expensive, only CMC 3 or less. Alright, in for 1. We're blocking, we're not. If he blocks, I really hope I just draw a lightning bolt off of this Charter Course. Okay. Accepts the terms. I should take 1 damage. I accept those terms. You're welcome. Okay, Charter Course. Those aren't too terrible. Of course, it's going to depend on what the opponent searches out with Zur. Ooh, so definitely going to be searching out a Steal the Godhead. Invincible Stalker is a really frustrating card. I guess Geist of St. Traft with the Steal the Godhead on it is even worse. Oh wow, puts the Steal on Zur. That seems a bit more beatable to me. If they put the Steal on, I guess it wouldn't get lifelink. That's the main difference. Okay, well hopefully I draw Vapor Snag. No, I don't want to reveal that. I think I want to attack and Snapcaster Charter Course. Opponents start down to 1 card in hand, and the big threat is going to be whatever they fetch out with Zur. I mean, I could Snapcaster, Serum Visions, or an Opt and try to look for something to interact with Zur. but I think my best bet is to just draw 2 cards and maybe be able to answer Zur next turn with the cards that I draw. Okay, so more chart, of course. So we're, I guess, kind of at parity with card advantage. The opponent's getting free cards with Zur, and we're drawing 2 with our chart, of course. So now Zur's probably going to go grab another steal for the Stalker. They grab another steal and put it on the Zur. I guess it doesn't make a ton of sense. Invocation of Saint Traft. Interesting. It's not a card that a lot of people regard as being constructed playable, but if you're putting it on hexproof creatures, then I mean, why? That's seems fine. Turns any hexproof creature into a Geist of Saint Traft. Alright, so I think Swiftspear. Okay, so how much am I on the hook for next turn? Probably 8. And then potentially another 2 because of an additional steal of the Godhead. So 4 off Angel, 5, 8. So I think I want to... Do I want to just cast this chart, of course, for an additional point of damage? I don't think so, and I don't think I need to really get in with the Swiftspear either. This is unblockable, and my Delver isn't flipped, so I don't have any flyers. So probably best to just do this. So probably like a Vapor Snag would be nice. Lightning Bolt. How is Lightning Bolt here? Not the best. Well, so now at this point I just kind of have to hope that Steal of the Godhead is a one of. Would have been nice if at some point a Delver flipped this game, but Delver is a harsh mistress. Whoa, okay, I see what's happening. Interesting. So that'll happen, I guess. So Invocation of Saint Traft and Intruder Alarm is a way to set up a combo to like give your creatures vigilance, I guess. Guess I'll reveal that just so I can draw it. Attack with these. At this point, I mean, they can't block either creatures with these creatures, so it's fine to send them even if they're going to get eaten by Zur. Then do I want to Snapcaster Chart, of course? It's probably my only real option. guess I would need to, well, there's nothing that I can really draw now, is there? So I could draw a double Vapor Snag, but I won't have the lands for it. What's this? Oh, if they have a counter spell, then yeah. Yeah, just not cards that we can interact with. The fun and interactiveness of Hexproof. Visible Stalker is a card I always wonder if it should see a little bit more play in Modern, just because it's a card that can't really be interacted with. Hexproof, unblockable. So I don't know, like if you would maybe take like the green-white Hexproof Auras deck and splash blue just to play Invisible Stalker or whatnot. Geist of St. Traft is also just going to be a card that is hard for this deck to deal with. Yeah, our deck just doesn't have the tools for it. You kind of have to race, and then once they bring out a card like Steel the Godhead, racing then becomes a non-option also. So our really only out was to flip the Delver sooner and maybe draw like a Vapor Snag. But none of those happened, so stay tuned for the next match, and we'll see if we can do a little bit better. Hello, Shredders, and welcome to match 3. Here we are on the play with I think a pretty reasonable hand. So I like here just casting Delver of Secrets and passing. Then hopefully it blind flips. If not, we can use Serum Visions to set it up and keep Spell Snare up for turn 2. Looks like probably Storm. Yes, I would like to reveal Serum Visions. And even though we flip the Delver, I'm still going to cast a Serum Visions here. Another Delver and a Dismember. So I think I like both of these, and I'll keep them in that order. So next turn we can play a Delver and flip it. Here if they play a Cost Reducer, okay, I didn't Spell Snare it. Play this just in case. So we know the Delver is going to flip as things currently sit. And is it fine if this gets remanded? So we have a Dismember on top if they play a Cost Reducer. I think it's fine if that's I'd rather match this Spell Snare up against a Ritual or a Cost Reducer. If they play a Cost Reducer here, I'll probably let it resolve. Okay, so they're going... Well, Manamorphose, they may be going for it or they may not be. I think here I will just Spell Snare the Manamorphose. And then, so our Delver's back to being a blind flip. Plays like a bolt. Another Delver, no. So I think I'll fetch, getting a mountain. And I don't think I really have any reason to cast Pyromancer first. Okay, Forked Bolt's good. I don't need the land. Logic Knot is a nice draw. Forked Bolt the Electromancer. Cast the Delver. So this gets in for 4, puts them to 7, and then our Delver should flip off the Logic Knot next turn. So opponent is incentivized just to try to go for it. Starting off with a Peer Through Depths isn't a great sign, especially getting a Serum Visions. So maybe they're counting on us not flipping the Delvers, but we did top a card with the Serum Visions. Reveal the Logic Knot. Okay, so able to pull off game 1 against Storm. So what do we want to do? So all of the counter magic is very important. Staticaster you can bring in to hedge against Empty the Warrens. And Roast is a removal spell that you can play. Ravenous Trap I don't think is what you want to like interact against Gifts and Passing Flames. I don't know if Vapor Snag is great. It's probably our worst way to interact with their cost reducers. And then I think I'll cut maybe a Serum Visions and a Chart a Course. It's not really a card advantage game, it's a game to get them dead, so Chart a Course isn't great in that respect. So maybe I'll shave another one and then bring these in. Maybe I want to go all the way down on Chart a Course. Down to 1 copy. I think that seems reasonable. Not a hand we can keep, and this hand is fine but missing a threat. It's fine to tap out for Serum Visions here since we don't have Spell Snare and we have a bunch of removal. Don't really want another land, but I'll take a Delver. So, Forked Bolt, since it's the sorcery speed answer, play a Delver. full value Grape Shot. Yeah, nothing happening. So really all I want is another threat. Keep a raw with 1 mana. Go to end step and try to dismember. Presumably they have Remand. Echoing Truth. It's about the same. Pass, and then try to... Presumably they'll play Baral again and I'll be able to roast it. Okay, so they're not going to play the Baral. Oh, excuse me. Until they have another way to protect it. Drawing quite a few lands here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but really need to draw another threat. Otherwise, we're just going to give them a lot of time to sculpt the hand that they want. Okay, Swiftspear. They're drawing quite a few lands as well. I guess them more than us. And I'm not going to play that Pyromancer just because they might have some sort of red sweeper, as well as I wouldn't really feel comfortable playing it until I'm able to keep a couple spells. So I'll try to bold that in response. Fire off another one. And I'll let that happen. Maybe a little dangerous, but the only card that really gets us is Past in Flames. We're empty. Maybe I should have fired off this other bolt. They might have been able to get an additional mana. Okay, so that makes sense. They're just gonna try to Past in Flames next turn. So they could have, they had 4 mana, so they could have went to 6. So they could have, I guess, you know, Past in Flames with 6 mana doesn't do it for their last card. Sure, Electromancer. And I guess I want to probably Pyromancer Roast and just let them, I mean, I don't have any interaction. They're pretty incentivized to go for it. Maybe they aren't. Maybe they wouldn't if I So they have 6 mana. So basically, if they draw a ritual, they can. Okay, they drew a Past in Flames off the top. So Past in Flames off the top lets them start ripping through these rituals. So they're probably going to be able to go off here. But there were a lot of draws that they could have had that wouldn't have allowed them to go off. So I think it was worthwhile to play Pyromancer, play Roast, just get a really solid clock into play. So kind of, guess, well, I don't know if you all like watching the combo turns or if you find that boring or not. So I don't know whether I should pause or let you keep watching. But I guess you always have the ability to skip on YouTube. So if this isn't what you like, you can always skip ahead. I'm just gonna let the opponent go through the stuff. So it looks like they may end up being a little short here. So they probably kill my board and deal the rest to me. Unless maybe they have like a lightning bolt in hand. No, it looks like they're killing the board and then dealing the rest to me. So, time to rebuild. And not a good draw really. But Pyromancer's a good creature to try to essentially rebuild with. So it looks like, okay, gifts, sure. Wonder if this is going to be, if they get 2 cost reducers, this might be, we might be able to leverage this lightning bolt. So I'm going to put the counter spells in the graveyard and allow them to have the Noxious Revival and the Baral. Okay, so they're passing the turn, so I think that was the right selection. I don't think I'm necessarily going to need this mana, so there's no point in cracking the fetch. And poor draw. Is this another gift? Has to probably mean that the game is over. Unless they sided kind of low on win conditions, because they only had they only have 1 grape shot in their deck, but presumably they have other things to win with, which they do. So I guess I'll put the Metamorphose and Desperate in the yard. So they should be able to win from this, I would imagine. Something got put on top. Dispel. Yeah, so that'll do it. Back to sideboard. If they had 2 Grape Shot, then I don't think it's worth hedging against Empty the Warrens. Maybe on the play I'll be able to leverage Chart a Course a little bit better. I don't know how... Vapor Snag probably just isn't good enough. The rest of this seems fine. Alright, play first, and this looks like a good hand to me. Maybe use a little counter magic, but we can use opt to find that. Might as well main phase opt. I'm not 100% sure what we want, but might as well get an extra damage in. Do we want a Delver? I don't think so. I think counter magic's really what we're interested in here. Dismember is, I guess, reasonable. True Delver. I think I'll play one of the Pyromancers out, just to be a little bit more mana efficient. Though they could have Remand. Go for something. Okay, so they're not firing off a ritual or anything. I think I will actually try to Forked Bolt. Yes, I'll reveal Serum Visions. So I'll try to Forked Bolt the Electromancer, see if they have like a Remand or something. Okay, they don't, and what's happening? There we go. It's been slow for a second. So Serum Visions, I guess just really looking for counter magic. Bolt. Bolt seems fine, and Negate is what we're looking for. So getting for a pretty good chunk of damage here. And then, so we have Negate and Bolt on top. What's this? Okay, pieces of the puzzle. It's kind of a, what do they put in hand? Puts Desperate Ritual and Metamorphose into hand. So this is 4 damage. Puts them to 6. So we have a Bolt on top. So I think I'll pass without playing anything. This way, if they have some sort of sweeper and then like a proactive spell, I don't then like I wouldn't want to play a Pyromancer because then I don't have Dismember up. So let that resolve. Metamorphose. I think that's fine. I'll save Negate again for... It's annoying because they are making a lot of mana. I think I just want to save for Past in Flames. Okay. Maybe they're just trying to loot. I don't think... Again, I don't think that's the spell I want to counter. Okay, so if they have another counter spell, it might get tough. So Metamorphose in the graveyard and Past in Flames in the graveyard, so they can't get so much mana that they are able to cast it from hand and then cast it from graveyard. This gives them one Past in Flames to work with. So if this Negate resolves, I probably win, and if the Past in Flames resolves, the opponent will win. Unless they have another Past in Flames in hand. Okay, pieces of the puzzle in hand. I think they'll be probably just short, right? Put Sleight of Hand and Past in Flames in hand, so I still have Bolt on top, so I should win this, if I'm remembering this correctly. Ooh, unless they drew a Grape Shot, right? If they Sleight of Hand into a Grape Shot. Oh, nope, passed. They passed with mana. Attack. I don't know if there's really a reason to play a Pyromancer or not first, but that was a good one. I find that I've played the Storm matchup a couple times now. It really just comes down to drawing your cards in the right order. So having, first some sort of card to pressure them with, and then the right interaction. Either if they have cost reducers, a little bit of removal for them, or just a nice logic nodder in the sideboard games, Negate or Dispel, to interact with them on the stack. Sometimes if you draw your cards into kind of the opposite order, the game gets a little bit harder, and so they're just kind of sculpting the perfect hand, and even though you may or may not be trading with your counter spells and removal spells on their cost reducers, it often doesn't work out, so you kind of need to draw the right cards. But with all the cantrips in your deck, usually you can kind of find what you need in the time that you need them. So I found that the matchup is often close, or feels close, and it comes down to the last couple cards in each player's hand. If they're a Past in Flames, or if I have a counter spell, then the person who has that right card wins. But at least with my play thus far, I've been finding that I'm the one to come out on top quite a bit of the time. Well, thank you for watching Stratters. Hello, Stratters. Welcome to our fourth match. I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, no, I meant to keep that. Well, we'll keep this. Don't want that. That first hand was actually really good. I just completely misclicked. Oh man, maybe it was a fate misclick because that first hand was not particularly good against burn, but it is not bad. This hand is not bad against burn. So I think what I want to do here is just lightning bolt this goblin guide, and so I'll fetch the mountain to do that. That does put us a little bit away from logic knotting, but that's probably fine. Okay, Grim, that's cool because I can just forked bolt that away. Lava Spike is totally fine. Yeah, so well, I mean, I'm going to fetch no matter what. Well, I guess I don't really want to draw lands, so I should have fetched first just to thin the deck out. That would have been correct, and then if I did have a land on top, it would have went to hand. Yeah, so first mistake turned out to be not actually a mistake, and then that yeah, I should have fetched since I didn't want to draw land. I should fetch, and then if there's a land on top, I get it, and if not, then I'll have a spell. So not a huge deal, but a potential problem later. And I don't want to chance that the opponent has a Searing Blaze. Plus, the opponent probably will fire off a spell at end of turn and then untap and probably be able to empty their hand. Okay, they didn't, so the fact that they didn't cast anything also lends itself to Searing Blaze. So I kind of don't want to play out this Delver unless I have no other plays, or I can protect it with Logic Knot. So here, play that, and not sure if I should be fetching or not exactly, but chances are I'll want 4 mana at some point over the course of this game, so it's not necessarily a problem to be fetching. It's so weird to see Windswept Heath in a burn deck. Typically you see Bloodstained Mire and Wooded Foothills, because those are the cheaper ones. And then maybe people have like one Arid Mesa or Scalding Tarn. Guess that's fine. I'd rather maybe get the 4 damage burn spell or the Searing Blaze instead of this card here. Yeah, counter the Searing Blaze. Alright. So we have a Lightning Bolt if they have a creature, and we can flip this Delver. Like another Logic Knot would be good. That's not very good at all. Well, we're still pretty far behind. Well, if the opponent's just on 5 lands, we might make it out, but this Delver's going to have to do something. Ooh, another Logic Knot. Perfect. So do that, and then I don't really see myself cracking the fetch land that's in play, so I don't see the reason to play another fetch land out. Oh wow, another land. Maybe we will get there. That would be amazing. Ooh, and a Spell Snare. So now we have like 2 drops under control, and okay, I think we've turned the corner. So we'll need 3 more attacks, or I guess 2 in this lightning bolt. And they, oh wow, they scooped. I wonder if they just drew 1 more land. Well, that was really lucky. Okay, so for sideboard, there's no way I would ever want this Dismember. Those seem fine. Chart of Course is a little bit slow for the matchup, so I'll probably want to take at least 2 of those out. I want all of these in. Maybe trim a Serum Vision. Maybe I want all the Chart of Course out, especially on the draw. I'm never going to be the one to be the aggressor, I think, on the draw. That seems reasonable. Just not really care about the card advantage game so much. I'm not sure how Vapor Snag is. Maybe that's a card that I want to cut. Doesn't really deal with anything. It's probably better to have Vapor Snag. Maybe on the if it makes it to game 3 and I'm on the draw, or excuse me, I'm on the play, then maybe I'll take these Chart of Course in and take Vapor Snag out. I also might want this Roast. Hit submit, so Roast is a consideration just because I really do need to kill their creatures. This hand looks pretty good to me. There's no removal in it, which is definitely a problem, but we'll certainly be able to race back. Looks like the opponent mulliganed to 6. And I would rather not shock. And I think against a deck that plays Searing Blaze, it's probably a good idea not to play a creature until I think that they don't have a Searing Blaze, or I can keep up counter magic. Just stop on my end step, fetch, bolt you. Kind of an unusual time to do that, but okay, so I'll keep up Logic Knot and then try to use these ops if they don't do anything that's worth Logic Knotting to try to find additional lands. So especially since I have a Snapcaster Mage in my hand and I have a Logic Knot. Sure, so opt in response. Negate looks plenty good to me. So I'm going to plan on fork bolting this Eidolon. I don't want that, I'd rather have a land. Okay, so I just have to get this Eidolon off the table, and then I'll use the Serum Visions to hopefully try to find more land drops. If I can get to 4 mana in a reasonable time frame, I think I'll be another Snapcaster. I don't think is what I want. So then next turn I'll probably Serum Visions and pass with counter magic up. So the worst thing would be another, okay, yeah, creature. So this will get me my island off the top of the deck. Is this Atarka's Command? So I can Snapcaster Forked Bolt. That might be my best option. It's play Young Pyromancer, and they're probably unlikely to have 8 points of burn. Yeah, I kind of like playing Young Pyromancer and Serum Visions here, just so I get two bodies. So say one of their cards is a Searing Blaze, they'll kill the Pyromancer, but I still have the token to chump block with. That seems Dispel is a nice one. So I don't think I want more than the fourth land. But I definitely want that. Yeah, so if there's a Searing Blaze, this might go poorly, but otherwise I think this isn't too bad. And then, okay, Lava Spike. Dispel, so I'll trade. And then this lets me... Alright, so now I have Dispel and Negate up. So the only card that I'm really worried about is an Ixalan. The other creatures I can probably navigate through, but I guess I have Logic Knot up for Ixalan as well. Let's cast a Serum Visions. That on top and that on top. Don't really see myself casting this Opt anytime soon, so I'll discard that. But then I just have a huge wall of counter magic here. So I'll dispel that. Get this Swiftspear in. Looks like I have spare mana for it. So I have Logic Knots and Negates. Snapcasters, buy them back, I think. So kind of not the best that we have to use a Logic Knot here, because I prefer to save the Logic Knots for Ixalan, but looks like the opponent has had enough. I think that's maybe a little bit premature, but I also do think we had that game locked up with this much counter magic and Snapcaster Mages plus removal. So that was a pretty good one. I don't actually think that this burn matchup is that good. I've found that often it's not as bad as it was maybe when the deck was full of Gitaxian probes and things like that. But it still seems pretty difficult to me. Having Spirebluff Canal can help sometimes, and then depending how much you want to dedicate in your sideboard, you can certainly shore the matchup up there. But I mean, a lot of times I've had where they just play an Eidolon, like I use a removal spell on a Goblin Guide or a Swiftspear, and then they land an Eidolon. My deck is just full of cantrips, so then there's just nothing I can do but having to wade through all these cards and all these cantrips with an Eidolon in play, and it doesn't work out. So I believe we have one more match, and then, yeah, so it started like I was going into a wrap-up here, but we do have one more match, so let's go ahead and play that match. Hello, Stratters. Here we are for our fifth and final match with Blue-Red Delver. So I think we are 3-1 on the day, so looking to hopefully get a 4-1. This hand has a lot of threats, not a lot of interaction. It's not necessarily a bad place to be in Modern. Okay, Blackcleave Cliffs. So this could be... let's see, I think I'm actually going to lead off on Swiftspear. So it could be Jund or Living End or Dredge, although Jund would typically have a discard spell, and Dredge would typically have like a Faithless Looting or a Insolent Neonate to play. They cycle Street Wraith and... Alright, so it is Living End. Okay, so hand is much worse against Living End. All threats is not the place to be. Though they have a lot of Street Wraiths, so maybe we can... Okay, that's a Cascade, so this is 9 power on turn 2 that they're putting onto the battlefield while simultaneously killing our only creature, so not bad. So I think I want to go Delver plus Swiftspear here. So then if the Delver flips, we're able to do some trading, and we don't have any instants or sorceries currently, so Pyromancer, I would rather play Pyromancer when I know I'm going to get some value off of it. I think we just have to take this hit, and we can decide if we see once the Delver does or doesn't flip. Does not. That's pretty bad for us. I think now we do have to play Pyromancer, and I guess feign any sort of like instant speed, like pretend we have an opt or something. Do I want to double block? Anything doesn't really seem worthwhile, but I have to obviously make some block, because if I don't, I'm dead. So it seems like double blocking the Architects is the best option. Do I want to do that with... So Pyromancer has to block, and then do I want the 1 power off the Delver or off the Swiftspear? Guess Delver, although Delver could flip and then we'd have 3 power. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Swiftspear then. Even if we draw an instant or sorcery, Swiftspear isn't guaranteed to do anything. So his turn would be, say we drew just any cantrip, that turn would have been significantly better. Nope. Well, I don't think there's much we can do it now. Yeah, I'm just gonna pack it in here. There's really no reason, because we have to block both of these, and then I mean, what are we drawing? And all right, so negates we want, and Dispel doesn't do anything because Living End isn't instant. Isn't Ravenous Trap any good? Not really. Roast is, I guess so. I guess Spell Snare is a totally dead card in the matchup. I mean, Roast can deal with some of the stuff they get back, or if they have to, or if they like, maybe we negate a Living End and then they start hard casting things. But I think Roast is just better in that regard. Forked Bolt doesn't do, it's more or less, yeah, so I guess maybe I'll keep Dismember and swap Roast for Forked Bolt. Yeah, this particular choice that we have for our Graveyard Hate and Ravenous Trap doesn't shine in the Living End matchup. So this is one of the matchups where you'd prefer to have Relic Progenitors. Opponent's mulliganing to 5. So Spirebluff Canal. And then if Delver flips, we're going to be... Ooh, yeah, it's... So I think here I am going to take the time to chart a course. Then I'll just try to keep counter magic up the rest of the game from this point. And, like only cast the other chart a course once we get to 4 mana. So I'm gonna not play Swiftspear and leave up Opt this turn. Oh, I guess I did miss the opponent hasn't hit a second land drop, so maybe I should have. If I'd noticed that I wasn't paying attention, then maybe I would play the Swiftspear, because the likelihood of them getting to Living End is that they'd have to top deck a land. I guess between their draw step and cycling, top deck a land, have a Simian Spirit Guide, and Cascade spell, which is maybe a tall order. I don't really want to opt. Prefer to find a land. And here, maybe I play the Swiftspear. Just play another Delver. Swiftspear has haste. I can maybe get some surprise value out of that. Maybe I should have kept the, I should have maybe kept the other opt just to get more cards in graveyard, which I was about to say, and then my opponent used a Fairy Macabre, and it became significantly more true that that would be a consideration to keep opt. It's just to make sure I have enough cards always in the graveyard. So all the Cascade spells have a red mana in their converted mana cost. My opponent is only with green and black. Don't want to show them Vapor Snag. I think it's pretty likely that the opponent knows that I have Bolt in my deck and that I will keep some number of bolts in. Was I going to flip it? No. But I have the Swiftspear, so that was still, I was going to win that turn. Compared to showing them Vapor Snag seems worse to me. Yeah, Fork Bolt doesn't seem good, but I don't know what I could possibly have it said. I mean, maybe Ravenous Trap. I mean, if they go cycle Street Wraith, I could get them if they had a fetch land. I mean, this card is basically just a sorcery speed shock. I can't imagine. Maybe they get a Living End off and I'm able to somehow maneuver, but I don't know if I should be playing towards that. I'm going to go ahead and bring in one Ravenous Trap. And throughout this game, I'll just, whether I draw it or not, kind of think about would Ravenous Trap have been free this turn or not. So I feel like it's not a particularly good card against Living End. This is a pretty medium hand. Typically you'd want to have a Delver or a Swiftspear. I don't really have cantrips, so it's going to be hard to navigate my way up to enough lands to use the Pyromancer and the Snapcaster. I think I can do better than this. And this hand actually does look better to me. So we have a Delver on one. Ooh, Chart a Course. So I think since my opponent mulliganed, it's probably less likely that they'll have everything they need for a good Living End turn on turn 3, so I think it's safe for me to play Delver, and then on turn 2 tap out for Chart a Course, and then just try to have the ball rolling to leave Negate up from there. On the play, it's very easy to play Delver and then Chart a Course, but on the draw, you just want to make sure that you don't just die, so that's always the issue. But so my opponent would have to have a couple cards to cycle here and then have the Cascade spell for a particularly good Living End, which I'm gonna risk. Sorry, hit the microphone. Well, they only cycled one, so that might mean that they just have it. Okay, so they're passing. That's good. That is good. No. So, this. I just want to leave up basics in case they have Fulminator Mage. I don't want to be in a situation where my only blue source is in a non-basic, or like a Spirebluff Canal or Steam Vents. Archfiend of Ifnir. This is a card that I thought was going to be a lot better in Living End, but it turns out the big splashy rare was not the card. It was Desert Ceradon and Horror of the Broken Lands that really pushed the deck over the top from when Amonkhet came out. I think this is still a decent, one or two of, and then maybe a sideboard card. Yeah, I'll reveal Negate. And I have 2 Negates, so the opponent, when I cast 1 Negate, will be like, oh, they've used their Negate, and then I'll be like, but I have 2. So that's nice. And then starting next turn, they'll be able to begin the barrage of draft commons. Not ideal, but this is acceptable. That's pretty good. So I'll Chart a Course after this combat. Yeah, Chart a Course is just, I mean, it's smoothing out things, so yeah. Maybe I should save that for like damage with a prowess trigger. I don't think I need another creature, and I certainly don't need another land. Yeah, at this point, I just, in case they don't have the Cascade spell and they start hardcasting creatures, I just want to be able to have removal to deal with those. So with that said, I think it is time to deploy a Pyromancer. So then, like this monstrous Carabid has to attack every turn. I wonder if they have the green Cascade spell, but they're just on all these Rakdos lands. I don't think I'm interested in blocking just yet, but I could maybe consider making some tokens to do some blocking later. Logic Knot seems good. Just have as much counter magic as we need. Chart, of course, has been phenomenal this game. It's been just continuing to hit gas and hit land drops so we can just churn through all our cantrips and find what we need. Because a deck like this doesn't really need to go more than 4 lands. But when you're able to hit lands as far as this, so we can keep multiple counter spells up, and we can, cast Opt and then not just find what we need, but cast Opt and then cast the spell that we find off of it. So they knew we had 1 Negate. They could have, well, we flipped Delver with Negate, so they knew that we had it, but apparently they didn't keep track of it, or just were forcing our hand here. I thought maybe they would let this get negated and then they'd cast another one, but it looks like not. Yeah, this game was a really good showing for Chart, of course. Just like I said, it just churned through our deck, get us card advantage, and made our spells. So instead of just casting a couple spells in a turn, we could cast a couple spells and keep up Negate and Logic Knot. It's really, really good. Alright, so let's take a look at the deck itself. So I feel like this is a pretty good version. It's gone a little bit from where I began with the deck, and I'm pretty happy with it. Originally, I had some roasts in the deck. I think I had 1 more land. I had electrolyzes, and so I've kind of shaved things down to 19 land and 8 cantrips, plus the Chart, of course, is sort of a draw spell. Let's see, Spell Snare and Logic Knot is my counter magic. I felt pretty good with that. And then this particular suite of removal. So I think this is about where you want to be with this deck. As far as the main deck is concerned, I could see maybe like Eldrazi being a little bit of an issue. You really only have, for the large creatures, Vapor Snag and Dismembers. Also, Chalice of the Void on 1 is a little bit of an issue. But I guess the sideboard addresses that with Byforce. Yeah, I liked how, kind of compared to the old Treasure Cruise deck, you used to have all these Cataxian Probes. Now you get to play 1 Dismember at least, and you used to have Treasure Cruise as your kind of graveyard fueling card, and now you just have Snapcaster and Logic Knot, so you kind of still make use of your life total and your cards in graveyard as resources, like the old deck did. Chart, of course, is a pretty good replacement for Treasure Cruise. I mean, it's not insane, but that also means it's not going to get banned anytime soon. And as far as the sideboard's concerned, we brought in these, brought in Dragon's Claw, our Roast, our Staticaster. We didn't, I guess, see we brought in Byforce against the, or did we? I mean, some of these are kind of, you have to see certain decks to necessarily want them, but it seemed like we made pretty good use of our sideboard. I don't know, overall I was pretty happy with the deck, how it performed, once I've kind of got it to this particular list. So stay tuned, Stratters, and thank you for watching.